2011 Ultimate Builder Custom Bike Show in Daytona, Florida. We're talking with Steve Galvin of Wicked Steel, and he's brought us a freestyle class bike. Let's take a minute, Steve, and tell me about your background.
My background actually is in music. I've been a musician most of my life, and I've always had mechanical things, cars, bikes that I worked on and tinkered with, and it's just sort of been an evolution from a music-based lifestyle to a more fabricator, motorcycle builder kind of lifestyle.
Let's talk about your bike. Start from the beginning. What were you trying to accomplish with this build?
Well, this bike started off as an abandoned chassis in my buddy Will's backyard. He had a frame from a Roadstar that somebody had cut up and tried to make a hardtail out of, and sort of butchered it up, and I saw it and I just said, you know what, I can do something with this. So I salvaged the engine cradle part of the frame and cut everything else off, and then fabricated it so that it had an extra 6 inches of stretch, curved backbone, still with a hardtail, and that was the basic bones of the bike. From that point, because I decided to go to the 1700 Warrior engine, I kind of got into a situation where they only came fuel injected. And you know, as you well know, with a fuel-injected engine, there's a tremendous amount of plumbing and electrical and hoses and ugly stuff that goes with it. So I decided really the only way to deal with this was to make it carbureted. Now, nobody makes a manifold to put carburetors on a 1700 engine, so I decided I'll make 2 manifolds, one for each cylinder. So each cylinder has its own manifold, its own carburetor, and its own gas tank.
Its own gas tank.
A wiring harness so that it all works. Even though the people at Dyna said it couldn't be done, it can be done.
I understood all of it, but 2 gas tanks.
Well, this is 2 separate tanks, split tanks, and because of the unsightly plumbing issues that would have caused to have both tanks feeding both carburetors, I decided why not just have each tank have its own gas tank.
It makes perfect sense. I would have never thought of that, though.
Oil tank is in the rear fender, and built my own exhaust system, mean street front end, and that was really the only store-bought item on the bike was the front end.
What about the headlight?
The headlight is an Arlen-S bullet light.
Is that LED?
No, but it's a
I noticed it had a lens on it. HID?
Yeah, a projection lens.
Okay. Let's talk about on the front tank. Is that a sculpture on the front tank, air intake?
Well, in the front of each tank is a grill, because that was the theme of the bike. I really wanted it to have sort of classic Art Deco kind of lines, and I thought that the grill work was always an important feature on the cars of that era, so I decided to make the grills, and behind the top section of each grill are the turn signals and running lights for the front end of the bike. So not only does it add a little style to the front of the tank, but it's actually a functional part of the electrical system.
Let's talk about the bottle that you have in the front. Tell me about that.
Well, that's a nitrous bottle. It has a dry nitrous system, and the biggest trick in that was creating a nitrous bottle that had the same radius as the down tube. I've never seen another one like it, and
nor have I.
That's an ancient Chinese recipe to make that match that radius.
You diamond cut the heads on that.
Powder coated. They're powder coated to match the bike because paint really isn't going to withstand the heat of an engine, and then diamond cut, yes.
Let's talk about the paint.
Okay. The paint is a PPG Lemon Ice is the name of the paint, and then I decided it needed some contrasting colors, and yellow and blue always look well together, and a little fuchsia pinstripe just to give it another flavor. And I decided to keep it simple on this bike. Again, keeping with simple lines and having a nice flow front to rear. You know, with an exposed backbone with a hump down the middle, I integrated that into the rear fender and the front fender, so all of this, there's a cohesion of design all the way from tip to tail with that hump down the middle of the bike.
Where did your inspiration from paint come from?
Inspiration for paint.
You liked yellow.
Well, you know what? I was looking for a color that you couldn't ignore. You know, and red gets done a lot, and I thought, you know what, most people steer away from yellow because there's so many shades of yellow. It could look like taxi cab, or it could look like mustard. So it was finding just the right shade, and I feel really comfortable with this choice.
What companies were instrumental in getting your bike finished?
I'm sorry?
What companies were instrumental in getting your bike finished?
The wheel makers. Picard USA out of Texas, really nice guys. I've been buying most of my wheels from them. They did these wheels, they did the wheels on my other bike, and they're really willing to go the extra mile to get you just what you need.
Anybody else you'd like to thank on this bike?
I'd like to thank my friend Will Robertson. If it wasn't for him, I never would have built this bike, because he's the one that had the frame in the backyard, and he builds Yamahas, and that kind of got me. This is the first metric bike I've ever built, and it's all his fault.
If somebody'd like to get a hold of you, Steve, how would they do that?
Well, they could either go to my website at wickedsteel.com, and Wicked is spelt with 2 Ks, so it's WIKKEDSTEEL.com, or I can reach by phone at 727-323-7303.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.